Good evening, everyone. This is our July 6th meeting of the Penfield Conservation Board, and I'm calling the meeting to order at this point. We have present with us tonight, we have Pat Schickler, Roseanne Cohen, Noel Schlageter, Daniel Moore, Paul Sugnet, and myself, Jim Almstead, and we're assisted by Doug Sangster with the town. And with that, our first issue is to approve the minutes of June 1st. And do I hear any discussion first on the minutes? Are there any desired corrections to the minutes? Fairly lengthy set of minutes. It looks like probably, Doug, you were faced with the task of transcribing these since it was Brad's very last day with the town on June 1st. So do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And with no objection, we'll approve the minutes as written, and thank you very much, Doug, for pulling that together for us.
No problem.
Okay, do we have any communications that have come to the board?
We have not, no.
So we have several items to discuss tonight. Let's begin with 2515 Penfield Road, which is an administrative review. You want to just give us an overview on that again, Doug?
Yes, I'll bring it up here on the map as well as bring up the site plan. We are on Penfield Road, just east of Harris Road, right across from about where Sherwood Fields is. It's an existing vacant property with a couple of accessory structures on it at this point. They are intending to build a single-family residence on the lot and keep and maintain the existing accessory structures.
Have we reported on this before?
Not that I'm aware of. We've had past proposals under previous owners for various types of applications on this lot. No formal applications, though. They were just folks that came in to do some concept proposals.
Where does this stand with respect to the PRC?
PRC is currently reviewing the application. We've sent out our first round of comments. Most of them were technical. At this time, the review is pending their future zoning board appearance because there are several accessory structures on the site that they're intending to keep. They have to get a variance for the number of accessory structures.
Well, this is going before the planning board when?
As a single-family residence on a pre-existing lot, it does not go to the planning board, but is reviewed and approved internally by staff.
Okay. Yeah, so truly an administrative review.
Yeah, the only board approval they'll be seeking is from the zoning board.
So are you looking for any comments from the Conservation Board?
At this time, it's been fallow land for a number of years. I don't believe anybody's been actively farming it. And the house is slated to be, sort of right here. So they're staying outside of the forested area and the wetland area. So staff doesn't have any significant environmental concerns on the site.
Can you move that up so we can see like what's across the street, so I know where I am? So is that the fire department?
Yep, this is the fire station. This is with the shared common driveway into Sherwood Fields. And this is Harris Road to the west. So it's right next, if you're familiar with the Clematis Inn,
Yeah.
it's right next door to the Clematis Inn.
there really hasn't been anything there in a long time. I mean, I just
Not-
drive by it all the time.
Yeah, it's been fallow land for a number of years, at least as long as I've been with the town. It's been fallow land. The only change is the property lines have shifted. They came in between the Clematis Inn and the previous owner, and they traded lot lines here, cleaned this up, and this accessory structure here is now part of the Clematis Inn and not part of the 2515. But our mapping is a little older. They just did that within the past year, and so our mapping hasn't been updated to reflect it.
Does the board have any observations, concerns?
No.
Okay, we'll move on then to 1492 Sweets Corners Road, which is going to be a two-lot subdivision.
It's a two-lot subdivision. It is the corner of Gloria and Sweets Corners Road.
It's my street.
So it is an existing, just under 36-acre property with an existing house and barn. The owners have been selling it or had it listed for a little while, and they're now interested in subdividing out the house and barn to be sold as the house and barn on a 2.5-ish acre parcel, and then selling off the remaining acreage as developable property under our RA2 zoning district, so 2-acre lots.
So that remaining land is how many acres?
I believe they're looking at 31.3 remaining acres.
And at this point, then, they've not defined exactly how they propose to develop that?
Their intention is not to develop it, but to sell the land to somebody else who would be interested in developing it.
Okay. And this will go before the planning board?
Yes, this will go before the planning board in August. It'll also go before the zoning board in August. Because of the size of the accessory structure, by code, it has to be, can't be any larger than 1% of the property size. So to maintain that 1% rule, the property needed to be somewhere around 5 acres in size. So they're going to be asking for variance from our code requirements for lot size for an accessory structure.
So it seems to me that it's likely that at this time, I wouldn't think the Conservation Board would have a lot to offer since there's been no proposal for the development of the larger parcel.
Nope, we just wanted to bring it to you for your initial feedback. We're just going to run through all the planning board applications that we've received, keep you guys both in the loop, as well as allow you to offer any concerns or comments you might have regarding any of the applications, whether you guys make a formal board report or just a comment that's reflected in your minutes.
Does anyone on the board have a concern at this point?
No.
No.
I don't.
Well, let's move on then to 2745 Penfield Road. Also known as the Highland Estates subdivision.
Yep, so I believe we brought this before you initially as an administrative application. The owner who purchased it was intending to do a subdivision. Initially, they came in to do an admin, just to do a single house, with the intention that they would build the house, sell the house, use the net profits from the house to fund the subdivision review to do the rest of the subdivision. At this time, they have chosen to submit a 2-phased 17-lot subdivision. We are in discussions with them on how they're going to handle that. It's our intention that we're going to ask them to withdraw their admin application so that they could do the subdivision, but they're looking to do a 17-lot subdivision.
Where is this
We need
exactly?
houses.
What?
We need houses.
Yeah.
This is on Penfield Road, just west of Jamanda Way.
Just west of Monroe?
Yep. East of Carter and Salt, west of Jamanda, right next to, or the west, shares the west, or property line with Bricolo Nursery.
Oh, it's across the street, okay.
Well, it's not across the street from
Wow.
Bricolo, it's right next to Bricolo, so Bricolo's
Right,
here.
right. I'm thinking of where
Yeah,
I
right
am.
across from Jamanda.
Is
Yeah.
that near to you?
Yeah.
Okay, no wonder I don't know the
Yeah.
area.
Well, it would be in our backyard.
So there's an existing house at 2735. He's in an agreement with the owner to develop a portion of that property as well. So they will be doing lots on both 2735 and 2745 Penfield Road.
So we're really looking at two owners for this project?
That's correct.
Okay, and yet, one quote-unquote developer?
Yes.
Okay. All right, that could get a little complicated.
So the current owner of 2745 purchased the land from 2730, the owner of 2735 Penfield Road. So at one point, it was one parcel.
I see.
Those parcels were subdivided to two as part of the Peck subdivision. I believe that was done in 2011. Then there was a house built with the intention that a house would be built on 2745. They never built a house on 2745. They ended up purchasing out the house at 2735, and 2745 remained vacant. There had been a sketch plan at one point to do a subdivision on this property, but it never made it past the sketch plan phase. We provided a sketch letter, and they did not come back for preliminary final. At that time, staff did have some concerns because the property does slope up, and there is a low area at the front, and they had concerns regarding drainage and some other issues that were going on with the property at the time.
And I don't think you have a report from us on this, do you?
I don't believe we do. I'm gonna look back. I want to look back and see if you guys did anything when it came in. Originally, it was called the Hillsborough Heights subdivision. In 2015, it was a sketch plan. I don't believe you reviewed it as a sketch plan. No, it doesn't look like the board reviewed it back then. So this would be your first board report on it.
And this goes to the planning board when?
In August. So
Okay.
I believe that's August 12th.
Okay, so our meeting is on the 3rd of August. So we'll need a report by August 3rd. Somebody want to volunteer on this one?
I can do it. It's right near my house. I can work on it.
Roseanne, you want to be a part of this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure if this is a question for the conservation board or not, but is this Penfield Central Schools still?
think it
I
is.
Because we're running out of space.
I believe it is because the school district owns property just down the road.
When I was in high school, apparently, like last year even, did have, I know that family's not necessarily going to move in right away with this proposal, but Penfield schools are running out of space. So that's something to consider.
That'd be a comment I'd have to defer to the school district. I'm not aware of what their current enrollment is.
They have like.
I only have historical numbers.
They spend like money, it's according to Dr. Putnam, I remember talking to him, last year, like all of the elementary school districts were given 4 new classrooms, and at least when I was in high school, for one of my classes, we didn't have enough space, so that's just something I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, I would say that's not a conservation
Yeah.
board matter, but it's an interesting point.
Now, I'd wonder whether or not the town can refuse building to say, well, the school board rules, that, you know, they seem two separate
It is so far
issues.
out of our-
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
It's
little
so
outside of the
far.
It's out of
purview of
our-
the Conservation Board.
Yeah,
We'd be really looking at environmental concerns regarding
Mm-hmm.
the development and
I can help
protection of natural
Roseanne.
resources.
I can help Roseanne with that.
Okay, so Pat and Roseanne, will thank you for
We
taking
have a few
that.
weekends
Doug?
before.
Can you put the layout of the lots on that you had up before? How does that upper left-hand lot have any access to the street?
This one?
Upper left
There-
hand.
Okay, I see a little.
There's
okay, now
two,
I see it.
the rear
I-
ones are, there are two flag
they got-
lots.
Yeah, flag lots, okay.
You started out by saying that there's an existing house at 2730, could you point
It's-
that out?
they-
Okay,
They're showing it here. So it'll
okay,
remain
and
a
so he's
large
giving
lot.
up property off of the road
That is correct.
for houses. Now, did you say that 2745 has purchased this already or not?
At this point, they are two separate owners.
They are still two separate.
Going through a little bit of the history with the properties, this was originally one lot. It was subdivided, I believe, in 2011 into two lots with the person who purchased 2745 intending to build a house on it. From what I understand, instead of building a house here, they ended up buying the house next door at 2735.
The shading you had, can you go back to the other one where you had some shading on that,
Yes.
that lighter green? What
Yes.
is,
So they are proposing it as a phased development.
okay.
There would be two phases. They would come in and get preliminary subdivision approval for the whole subdivision and final approvals for phase one, the first 5 lots.
Which would
They
be
would
the
then have
light
to
gr-
make a
the
second
green.
application for final approval for the last 11 lots.
okay, so it's not signifying the different owners.
Nope.
Where does it
It's-
split at the back, where does it split along this, towards the
They're
back?
not showing the existing lot lines there, but I can see if I can, yep, this one shows a little bit better. So the existing lot lines are right here.
Oh, okay. And that's the 2735?
Yes.
But just again, the developer slash builder will be the same for all houses?
It's currently 2 owners. He has an agreement with as it's shown here.
I'm just wondering, do
Joseph
we know who
DePrima
that
owns-
is? Who's going to be the builder here?
So the applicant is Highland Builders. They are a custom home builder. From our understanding and conversations with them, this is their first subdivision. They usually purchase existing vacant lots, build single-family residential on those lots. But it's usually a single lot, single house. This is their first foray into residential subdivision, building
Yeah.
more than one house at a time. The owner next door is Joseph DePrima. He's a longtime property owner there. He has submitted an owner authorization allowing Highland Builders to make an application on his behalf to the Penfield Planning Board for subdivision approval.
Okay. Well, again, thanks to Pat and Roseanne for taking this on. Does the board have any other comments before we move on?
No, sir.
So the tree harvesting proposal update, you want to tackle that one, Paul?
I can. So I sent out an email relative to it, which was just to capture some points. We had a meeting, we attended, myself, Noel, and Dan attended a PRC meeting in which the logger, one of the property owners, and a neighbor attended. The logger walked us through what was going to happen, which was selective harvesting, so bits and pieces as opposed to the whole site, a clear site. We talked about what percentages that might mean, because I was just trying to get a concept of how much trees are, when we walk out to the site, are going to disappear. And that jumped all over the place from 20% to maybe 40%. And the thought was, how much damage because the conversation led to collateral damage. The neighbor was very up to speed relative to this process, had seen it in the past and knew there would be a lot of collateral damage. And I think the estimate went from to 25 to 50%. I don't recollect exactly, but that much would be affected. So just to give us a concept of what we would see when we went out there. Like I said, 3 property owners. One was here. The other 2 weren't. One of the others, it came to our attention that he had a plan, a possible development himself on that property. So I think, Doug, you actually brought, or maybe it was Jim Casella brought it to light that the cart might be ahead of the horse, as opposed to coming in there and taking out a bunch of trees before you develop the site for building. So that was parked. The third owner was a woman, I believe, that was planning to sell her property, was maybe thinking she was enhancing the property, where the neighbor was saying, this is going to do anything but enhance the property as far as somebody coming and seeing the site, because they're going to see the tops. They leave the tops behind. Jumping ahead a little bit, you see these giant trees. And when you get to the first limb, from there up is quote-unquote the top. That just gets toppled and left. When it gets toppled, it takes down anything in its way. So that was the collateral damage piece. So it became evident that although the woman wanted to do this because she was going to get paid for her lumber, that maybe she didn't know. And so I think it was Jim or someone offered that they're going to go see her again. The neighbor said he was going to go see her to discuss it. I think that's pretty much captured the meeting. Okay? Then we went out on site. And Noel and I were able to make it. Dan wasn't. And the logger was there. And he did a great job of walking us through it. The neighbor was getting a little heated at times relative to what the damage was going to be. It was evident that what we saw was a lot of hillside. They're going to have to, make a path through it. But it didn't look like that path through it was going to cause a lot of damage along. And they weren't getting into the steep slope stuff. But it was very selective trees. And it was evident that when those trees come down, there's going to be some damage. So I think our main takeaway was if the property owners understood just what that meant. They have every right in our book, I don't mean to speak for you, Noel or Dan, but I think they have every right to sell their trees and have this done. But I think it was possible that they didn't understand what was going to be left behind. So that was the biggest concern, I think, that there was.
So I'll bet you got an update for us, Doug?
Yeah, so at this time, at least 2 of the property owners have fully pulled out. As you were saying, the one property owner, he has ideas for the future on what he wants to do with his property. He has petitioned, starting with the Comprehensive Plan Committee, to rezone his property. It's currently split. So 1423 is currently split between the LaSalle's Landing District and the R120 Residential Zoning District. He's looking either for LaSalle's Landing or townhomes so that he could do a little bit higher intensity development right along Empire Boulevard. Jim Costello did bring up that, prior to doing the rezoning, it may not necessarily be in his best favor to either clear cut or to remove a substantial amount of the trees from the property, especially if he's looking to develop it, because buffering is one of the concerns that is usually brought up in any development site plan application. Is it buffered to the neighbors, especially going from somewhere low intensity like single family residential to a higher intensity like either commercial, townhomes, or even opening it up to greater impacts to Empire Boulevard. The second owner is a commercial property, commercial entity, has operated their business there for a number of years. Buffering between them and the neighbors has been a concern for a very long time. So while one of the business owners was more interested in clearing. The one of the other property owners or business owners was very much against doing the clear cutting because they saw that there was little benefit to the money that they would earn from doing selective
Well, I'm
clearing.
correct, it's not
and,
clear cutting.
Yeah, it's selective cutting, but they saw a lot more, less benefit in what they could get for the few trees that they'd be taking out because it was going to be the property with the least trees removed.
Yeah.
And they only saw downsides in the fact that it could cause more neighbor complaints as they're working back there. They've done a good job of not working along that back property line and to remain good neighbors with the residences that abut them. And they don't want to jeopardize that by coming in and clearing out a few trees. The last property owner, I've not heard from Jim whether she has remained in or out, but he did discuss with her more of what would be going on with selective clearing and the fact they would leave treetops. I do know the neighbors talked to her. He holds a lot of sentimental value on the trees on these properties. Having grown up there, he often walked across those lands, whether they were his or not. I'm not 100% sure of the full history of the properties and the property owners, but he is by trade also in the tree cutting and clearing business. He works for a tree service company, so he is acquainted with the process more than
I didn't know that.
most people would.
That's the one at 1555 Creek, right? To Harris?
That's her property,
Yeah.
the one that he borders up
think
on Wilbur Track.
When we walked it, I think I saw there were trees that were quite close to the residence in a way. And remember the ones that were on the ridge and they would fall maybe one way or the other? And I think when the logger talked to her, she got cold feet.
Yeah, her intention was to selectively clear so that there was a little bit more sunlight coming into it.
Yeah.
Make it a little bit more brighter so it doesn't seem like a
She wanted
dark.
more parkland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't want it to be quite as much of a dark forested area that any prospective new owner would not want to go to or go in because it is a substantially large property she owns. I believe
Where is this on
17
Empire?
acres.
Yeah, south
So
side.
she's off
At
of
the
Creek
bay.
Street, or Graham Creek Heights, which is a private drive off of
Okay.
Creek Street, though it has a Creek Street address. But she owns something like 37 acres of property. One does have an Empire Boulevard address because it is a landlocked parcel off of Wilbur Tract Road. But there are trails and things that exist in there, and it's pretty heavily treed, so there's not a lot of sunlight that comes in. So I think her intention was to clear it out, get a little bit more sunlight in there, make it a little bit more open and inviting with the hope that somebody would fall in love with the trails with the little pockets of sunshine coming through.
And when you say heavily treed, these are huge trees.
Yeah.
It's not little trees. These are tall trees it's a gorgeous forest. It really is.
So at this time, I don't believe they're going forward with any of the tree harvesting. As I know that one property owner was the only one left in the deal. I don't believe she's going forward with it, but I've not gotten a full update from Jim Costello on that.
Okay, fair enough.
That's the property that least steep slopes, and he was looking to get it cleaned out so he could figure out putting something in there. The one that's left, not Melly's or not the Hars.
No, he is out on, he pulled out, Mizzou pulled out on that.
He did, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Because he is potentially approaching the town board in the future for a rezoning on his property. He did take Jim's advice that it might not be the wisest to reduce his buffering to the neighbors before coming in and asking for sort of an upzoning. It's a little bit mixed because it is partially LaSalle's Landing right now and partially R120, but he'd be looking to do a higher intensity use there than just R120 or single-family residential.
So I guess Jim did want our notes,
Jim Costello.
Jim Costello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But of course, you made the point that we should have officially approved notes before forwarding
Yeah, I think if we're going to issue a report, then the board needs to put their stamp of approval on the report. And then it would be appropriate, of course, to share it with Jim. Are we at a point where you feel we could issue a report, or?
Oh, absolutely. In the report, so the form I was taking, because he was just asking for our inputs,
Right,
was just an email
sure.
where I made some points. I could make it an official Conservation Board report, or I could leave it as an email that I could forward to Jim. But before I did that, I'd send it to the folks that I didn't include originally, so they could have a look at it. They could send back, yeah, it looks great, and then I could forward it to Jim. Or I could put it on an official report form.
Doug, what is the town expecting of us at this point? Are you expecting a report?
Anything you provide would be beneficial for Jim's review. You guys are more than welcome to make it as formal as you'd like. I don't know, this is the first time in 7 years I've done a tree harvesting proposal with you guys. If you want to make it an email, I think he would be very happy to have that, and he could forward your concerns on to the potential applicants in the logger, if you do want to make it a formal report.
Paul, I'm trying to recall now whether your email went to the full board, or?
No.
No, it went
only
to
the folks
you
that
and
were
me.
involved, because
Okay.
I wanted to see, get
Yeah.
their, if I grabbed enough.
Why don't we do this? Why don't you send your email to the full board,
Okay?
and then, does the board have any concerns that you might want to treat that email as a formal report, or shall we just allow Paul's email capturing the essence of what he just told us to go on to Jim Costello in good faith? What's
It's
the
fine.
feel?
If Jim needed a formal report, then he'd ask for it, right?
Yeah, it was informal.
It doesn't seem like it's worthwhile telling what we saw. The logger did a good job explaining what he wanted to do, but what he wanted to do and the collateral damage that occurred and the fact that all of the trash parts were going to be left on the land, I think is what turned some people off, as well as the minimum amount of salable timber he's going to take out on other ones. It wasn't to their advantage to have it, though. If the lady wanted more light to come through, then do some limb trimming and not take out the trees, basically, and stuff like that. And with the others, they weren't going to get a lot of money for the lumber for the time and the use of their property, because his access had to go through one of those properties. He had to build a bridge across the creek to escape having a problem with DEC for pollution and stuff. So, I mean, from a conservation point of view, we'd have to go back and look at other properties if they were going to lumber it and stuff and see what was going on. And what we saw there, the guy was climbing banks that were like 45 degrees up the hill. At least that's what my legs told me when I was trying to climb up. So he had good lumbering techniques, but the residue and stuff is what turned people off, or the lack of income, I think, because it was selective cutting.
Yeah.
Yep.
So again, I think if we went informal, because we didn't have to even be here for it, to be honest. We just jumped in, right?
Yeah, it's, my own personal belief is we grant a lot of power to people who own property, and rightfully so. Our concern, I think, would be if you're going to develop a property, you try to save as many of the desirable trees as possible. It enhances the property not only for the residents of the town, but also for the people who will be residents of the community to be built in that development. So, so I think as a board, we do our best to see that desirable trees are preserved.
Sure.
And we have guidelines for developers. And I know a lot of us would like to see those guidelines be more than simply guidelines, but, you know, people have the right to cut trees on their property, so. So I think we are, I think we're trying to be helpful in making sure that people understand what they're getting into here, but I don't think we have power to say you can't do it. I could be wrong.
No, I would agree with that.
But that just seems reasonable. And I think you brought up what the concerns of the property owners were, and as well as the neighbors. So I guess I would like to make a motion that we ask Paul to send his email that he shared with those who were involved in looking at the proposal, that he send that email to the full board, and that the board, by virtue of a vote tonight, authorizes him to include Jim Costello in a copy of that email. I'll make that motion.
I second it.
Excellent.
Any discussion on that? So that'll get our thoughts off to Jim Costello, and with our thanks for him joining us.
For sure. Okay, cool.
Okay, thanks. Thanks very much, Paul.
Sure.
So when we look at other business, we were probably going to want to review some ongoing projects. And let me just start with the first one I'd like to hear a review on, and that's the proposal in this same neck of the woods. I think it's the Howitt property, is that correct? Where does that stand now?
I believe it's been approved by the town board, because that was a town board application. I know at this point we are working through some technical items with them regarding how they do the subdivision of land, placement of the stormwater management facility. They've also been in some discussion with K2 Brewing regarding providing additional access and parking for K2 Brewing. At this time, they're still intending to dedicate 1185 to Monroe County Parks to be included as part of Lucian Morin. I don't know precisely where that stands. I know they had some conversations, and there was some back and forth regarding doing a phase 1 environmental report on it prior to its dedication. I believe as part of the agreement at this time, they are not going to be developing townhomes on the remainder of the property, that the agreement was, at least through Dr. Howitt's lifetime, that property would not be developed, but that there was not a restriction or placed on a deed preventing its development in the future.
Okay. I drove down Plank Road today, and quite a bit east of the intersection of Plank and Jackson, quite a bit east is the entrance to a construction site that I assume is eventually going to handle that entire large parcel at that corner of Plank and Jackson. Is that right?
Yes. So at this time, it was originally approved in 2019 as Forest Ridge Estates. That developer backed out of the deal, and the engineers resold the plans to a new developer who is intending to develop that 72-lot subdivision. It's now going to be known as Rocco Pines. At this time, they have preliminary grading approval to go ahead and do some of the minor earthwork on 1394 only, not the property at 1440 Jackson Road. They're really sort of in a holding pattern. That project was intended to be sewered with a pump station as part of their approval, a required pump station as part of their approval. The intention was to take it up Jackson Road and tie it into the Webster sewer system that way. There is currently a restriction in Webster's sewer system at the intersection of State and Jackson that is preventing more sewerable units from being developed in Penfield.
At the intersection of State and Jackson.
Yes. So their intention was they were going to have a pump station sort of near the intersection of Jackson and Plank, and the sewer would run up Jackson Road and connect into the existing Webster system on, see how I can pull it up here, on the existing system in Webster, which is where a lot of the north side of Penfield sewers go as they flow into Webster, who has their own treatment plant and treatment capacity. At this time, there's currently a restriction up here at State and Jackson that is preventing them from being able to tie in at this time. There was a planned bypass sewer that was going to be a collaboration between Penfield and Webster, and right now that hasn't moved forward. It's still in the engineering phase. If that doesn't move forward here in the near future, they have expressed that they would run sewers down Plank Road and tie into our existing system at the corner of Plank and Shoecraft, where we do have capacity.
Tie in at Plank and Shoecraft.
Yeah. Is that farther for them? I mean, why wouldn't they just do that?
It is a little further. There was some grade challenges. It was going to require the required sizing for because we don't allow the development of sewers for only a single property as part of it. They were going to have to do a regional system and a regional pump station, so not every subdivision has its own pump station. So to pump to Shoecraft was going to be a little bit more of a challenge than pumping down Jackson in terms of how they had to dig and lay the sewers. Just because the grades were more favorable going down Jackson than it was going down Plank.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. So they're pretty much on hold until this is resolved, aren't they?
Yes, at this point, they've just started some selective mowing and clearing, and they've started some grading work on 1394 Jackson, which is one of the two properties. They have not started construction or grading work on 1440 Jackson Road.
Okay, thank you. Seems to me I had a third project in mind, but it's escaped me. So does anyone have any other projects they'd like updates on?
We do have two more applications we can go through that were received after we published this agenda.
Okay.
Last Friday was the submission deadline for the August planning board. They're both relatively minor. One is on Clark Road. There's an existing single-family residence on Clark Road at 1851. It is an old farmhouse. The current owner really likes the historic nature of the farmhouse, but it's a little small for his, family. Based on our code, anything greater than 1,000 square feet of new impervious space is required to go to the planning board, and it is their intention to build off and substantially increase the size of the house. So it'll be going before the planning board. It's a single-family house on an existing about 1 acre parcel.
Can you locate me again a little more precisely? Where's the Clark house?
So the Clark house is down here. So this is Clark Road by Skyview Lane. So the Clark house is down here by Clark and Wayland. So the site is located up here.
Is it near Brown Cross?
Okay.
Almost to Brown.
It's sort of halfway, it's on Clark Road, basically halfway in between. It's right at the top of the hill there before you go down by Denonville Ridge.
Okay.
And start
What's
heading
the
down the
address?
hill and curve, 1851.
1851.
Show me the lot again. Okay. I thought my wife's cousin lived in 1851 years ago, but it doesn't look like it. He was farther up.
Come on.
Not to drive past.
Yeah.
Yeah. See if it there, if it loads up. There we go. So it is an older farmhouse. They're just looking to add on about 2,500 square feet.
I think that's where Jimmy.
Cool.
So is this essentially an administrative review?
It's going to the planning board just due to our code. It's a little, weird. We do have a cutoff in terms of how much new impervious space can be added before it triggers planning board. In this case, because it is greater than 1,000 square feet of new impervious surface, it triggers a planning board application. So he'll be going before the planning board in August to do his addition.
Do they have storm sewers in this area?
Along the road, they'll be extending catch basin, I believe.
Does anyone see a need for us to review that?
No.
Then I think we can probably not review that one. What else do you have, Doug?
The only other one I have is at Penfield Country Club. They are looking at adding a new maintenance building to their existing maintenance area. Because of its size, it again triggers planning board applications. So they're looking to put in about a 2,600 square foot, I believe it's 2,600 square foot. I don't think I have the maps for that in yet. They're adding a new maintenance and storage building.
So what we're looking at here, what, in terms of percentage of building coverage, what are we talking about? Another 20%?
So overall, it's going to be a very small portion of their property. It does back up to the wooded area, but they're not taking out any woods. There's sort of an existing pad there now that they use and store equipment at. They're just going to be creating essentially a covered building for it.
So I guess, again, I personally don't think that's something we'll need to review. Anyone feel we need to look at that?
No.
No.
Okay. Well, thanks for the updates. Anyone have any other updates they'd be interested in?
Is there any update on the RAT project? So we were supposed to review that, but we never.
Yes, so they received their approval, I'm forgetting the date off the top of my head. So they modified their submission. In the end, they removed their conditional use permit, their request for a conditional use permit modification. So they're not intending to hold any events or any, no weddings, no events. It'll be strictly an educational property with educational uses. They did come in to add their parking area and to do some roadway improvements because they have erosion issues along the roadway. But they requested that the planning board not consider a modification of the conditional use permit as part of that application. So it was mostly minor site plan updates and site plan revisions.
So this is a done deal at this point?
Yes.
So we were actually never invited to
We
walk the
in
site.
the end we never ended up doing a site walk. Yeah, we never ended up doing a site walk. They were substantially reducing what they were intending to do with the property from what was originally requested. And a site walk just never materialized out of that.
Okay. Do we have anything held over, any old business? None that I'm aware of.
None that I'm aware of.
And then I guess we're down to our next meeting being August 3rd. And Pat and Roseanne will look forward to your report.
I didn't go to the last EMC meeting because I was out of
Oh,
town.
thank you. I meant to ask.
Yeah, I was out of town last month. so.
Okay.
But
Any other matters that anyone wants to bring up? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I thought they were doing something because I remember.
I don't hear
Second.
any- I
Second,
don't hear
there you
any
go.
Second.
objections.
That's all we're looking
I
for.
guess we're done. Thank
I
you
think
all.
they moved on.
Thanks.
Thank you all.